The enormous nine-colored light pillar pierced the sky. Its beautiful luster caused the land to appear a lot livelier. This sudden unexpected change caused many to feel shocked and stunned. Clearly, they did not understand where the nine-colored light pillar originated from. This kind of pressure, Yao Ming and the other elders from the Nine Serene Deep Ground Python tribe stared at the light pillar with shocked and uncertain eyes. They were able to detect a pressure that originated from within both their bloodlines and souls. Bang! Huang Tian's enormous demon phoenix body was unable to stop in time. It violently collided with the light pillar in front of countless pairs of startled eyes. A loud earth-shaking sound abruptly reverberated across the sky. The sky and land seemed to tremble because of this fierce collision. Crack, crack. After Huang Tian's full-force collision, the nine-colored light pillar cracked. A huge crack line formed as though it was possible to break a light pillar. The surface of the light pillar blasted apart, and a 10,000-foot-long nine-colored snake tail suddenly erupted from the light pillar. It was swung and firmly wrapped around Huang Tian's body. The light pillar collapsed, and a huge nine-colored python that was even larger than Huang Tian glaringly appeared in front of many pairs of eyes. Hiss! The inhalation of cold air immediately sounded one after another as everyone looked at the huge nine-colored python, which filled the sky. Shock surged into the many pairs of eyes present. This is seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. Those elders from the Nine Serene Deep Ground Python tribe revealed stunned eyes as they stared at the brilliant python. The large python's body radiated with nine colors. It was colorful and extremely beautiful. Those human-sized scales contained a gorgeous luster as they covered that enormous body. The body of the snake slowly wiggled. It vaguely emitted an overwhelming feeling that seemed to be able to easily shatter a mountain range. This feeling shook one's heart. It is not a seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. It is the legendary nine-colored heaven-swallowing python. A great wave seemed to have stirred in Yao Ming's heart at this moment. The nine-colored heaven-swallowing python was a divine creature that seemed only exist in the ancient folk tales. From a certain point of view, such an existence was even stronger than the ancestor of the snake-type magical beast, the ancient heaven python. Due to them being few in numbers, the reputation of the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python was far inferior to the ancient heaven python. However, being the tribal chief of the Nine Serene Deep Ground Python tribe, Yao Ming naturally understood the strength of this nine-colored heaven-swallowing python. Even during ancient times, the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python had hardly ever appeared. Moreover, each time it did, it would stir shock within the snake tribe. Yao Ming had never imagined that he would actually be able to personally see this divine beast, which only existed in the legends. The current Nine Serene Deep Ground Python tribe was the tribe with the closest bloodline to the ancient heaven python among the snake tribes, but this pride was not even worth mentioning in front of a nine-colored heaven-swallowing python because the bloodline of the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python was a little stronger than the ancient heaven python from a certain point of view. The pressure from his bloodline originated from this. Kai Lin actually possesses such an identity. No wonder Xiao Yin allowed her to train in the Nine Serene Spring. At this moment, Yao Ming finally understood why Xiao Yin had allowed Kai Lin to train inside the spring, which even he could not stay in for long. A nine-colored heaven-swallowing python? How is this possible? How can there be any nine-colored heaven-swallowing python remaining on the continent? Huang Tian's huge body was firmly restrained. He looked at the nine-colored python in front of him, which was staring at him with icy cold snake eyes and extending its snake tongue. A shocked expression surged within his eyes as he involuntarily cried out in disbelief. The huge python in front of him was an existence comparable to the heaven phoenix. Why did it still exist in this world? The snake eyes of the huge, nine-colored python remained icy even as Huang Tian roared in disbelief. The huge snake tail that had been firmly wrapped around his body gradually constricted tighter. That terrifying squeezing force broke the metallic feathers on Huang Tian's body. The bones in his body continuously emitted a strange creaking sound. Even the space itself had become a little distorted. Damn it! A shock and fury flashed through Huang Tian's huge eyes as he sensed the powerful pressure that contorted his body. He let out a sharp cry toward the sky as a bright golden light shot out of his body in all directions. Under the golden light, the feathers on Huang Tian's body suddenly stood up. They were like sharp blades as they wildly hacked at the huge, nine-colored python's body. Sparks started to rain down like a firestorm. Hiss, hiss. The eyes of the nine-colored huge python gained a colder glint as Huang Tian struggled to retaliate. He saw the snake head sway and dozens of seven-colored snake scales suddenly fell. These scales shook and changed into dozens of enormous, seven-colored heaven-swallowing pythons in front of many shocked eyes. After which, the snake tails entangled with each other like a snake web. Finally, dozens of seven-colored heaven-swallowing python cried out toward the sky. The snake web subsequently shrunk at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bang, bang, bang. The rate at which the snake net shrunk was frightening. A squeezing force, which could not be described, was formed by the net made out of snakes. Even space itself collapsed. Hiss, hiss. Huang Tian was at the middle of the frightening squeezing force. He involuntarily felt some panic and fear despite his strength. Even he would likely be seriously injured if he were struck by that net. A desire to withdraw immediately rose in his heart. His enormous body strangely shook as he forcefully freed himself slightly from the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python. Soon after, his huge body quickly shrank and transformed into a human figure in front of many pairs of eyes. The wings on Huang Tian's back were flapped after he returned to his human form. Wind blew and thunder reverberated as his body penetrated space and hurriedly rushed out of the snake web. Bang! Huang Tian was extremely fast and ferocious. Both of his wings were flapped, and he narrowly fled through a gap in the snake net. Just as he thought that he had escaped, an enormous shadow suddenly descended from the sky. A bright and colorful snake tail ruthlessly smashed into his body. The powerful air explosion smashed into the ground 100,000 feet below, forming a 10,000-foot wide pit. Huang Tian immediately spat out a mouthful of fresh blood after being firmly struck by this snake tail. The frightening strength shook him until his internal organs shifted. His body was just like a cannonball as it flew away. Finally, he violently shattered a mountain in front of many stunned eyes. After which, he rubbed across the ground and formed a 10,000-foot deep gully before he came to a slow halt. Many pairs of eyes looked at the gully, which stretched into the horizon. Their throat involuntarily quivered. Their eyes had gained an additional fear when they looked at the nine-colored heaven-swallowing python in the sky again. Even an ordinary elite Do Shang would likely be turned into a bloody fog from this tail strike. Gulp. The bodies of those experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe stiffened at this moment. Their expressions were stunned. None of them dared to move forward to rescue Huang Tian because of the incomparably intense pressure radiating from the sky. While the entire sky seemed to have fallen into silence, the enormous nine-colored heaven-swallowing python in the sky slowly began to curl up its huge body. Then, a colorful and brilliant luster surged from its body before the heaven-swallowing python's large body began to shrink. Finally, it turned into a beautiful figure with enchanting curves in front of many startled eyes. The luster in the sky gradually scattered. That enchanting figure appeared in the eyes of many figure. Cold, enchanting, and capable of bringing disaster to a country. The hearts of many pounded at a faster rate once they saw this bewitching appearance mixed with an iciness. Such a person could be described as the ultimate temptation. The bewitching figure revealed herself in the sky. Her hand pointed at the dozens of seven-colored heaven, swallowing python in the sky and beckoned. The snakes whistled down before turning into many seven-colored lights that rushed into her body. Those are actually spiritual bodies of seven-colored heaven-swallowing pythons? Only after she began collecting those seven-colored heaven-swallowing python did Yao Ming and the others shockingly discover that these heaven-swallowing pythons were not made of energy. Instead, they were true heaven-swallowing python souls. Dozens of seven-colored heaven-swallowing python souls. Even Yao Ming's head became a little giddy after realizing what they were. The remaining elders from the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe all revealed dull gazes, appearing just like fools. How could so many of these extremely rare seven-colored heaven-swallowing pythons appear at once? The beauty in the sky completely ignored their shock. Her eyes, which contained a lazy iciness, slowly swept her surroundings, as though she was a queen inspecting her subjects, appearing cold and mighty. But anyone who made contact with this pair of eyes, which contained a trace of laziness, would feel their hearts beat harder. Some of those mentally weak individuals revealed bright red faces as the dou qi within their bodies became chaotic. The demonic beauty's eyes merely swept briefly over the area below. They shifted away without pausing, after which she turned her head slightly and looked at an area a short distance behind her. A black-clothed young man was standing in the air. His face contained some gentle smile. A pair of dark black eyes were filled with joy. Her eyes paused on that young figure as the mouth on her bewitching face slowly lifted into an arc. She was like a blooming peony that was filled with great allure. Her beauty was soul-stirring. Xiao Yan's was a little absent-minded after seeing Kai Lin's dazzling smile. He immediately swung his head and recovered. He softly laughed. "Have you completed your retreat?" "Aye." Kai Lin smiled. Her narrow, pretty eyes slowly swept over Xiao Yan. Her narrow, crescent-like eyebrows were lifted. She asked, "Has your strength grown significantly again?" "I cannot compare with you." Xiao Yan spread his hands. His eyes were a little helpless as he looked at Kai Lin. From the way Kai Lin had appeared, it was obvious that her strength had soared to a relatively powerful level during this retreat. This had left him a little speechless. He had also headed to the bottom of the spring, but he had not found anything unusual about it. After Kai Lin had entered this so-called ordinary spring, she had ended up gaining a lot. This blessing really caused one to feel envious. Is that so? Kai Lin shifted her feet. She carried a tempting fragrance as she approached Xiao Yan. Her pretty eyes slightly flickered. Her long, delicate fingers suddenly pressed toward Xiao Yan with lightning-like speed. A 9-colored luster was vaguely present on the tip of her finger, while a mysterious energy quietly spread from it. Xiao Yan involuntarily shook his head upon seeing her test his strength. A pink flame rose in front of him, and Kai Lin's finger dangerously paused outside of the flame. She glanced at Xiao Yan and said in a regretful voice, "I thought that I would have surpassed you after exiting my retreat." Even now, Kai Lin deeply remembered the feeling of being far stronger than Xiao Yan back then. However, her somewhat strong self was a little depressed that something like being stronger than Xiao Yan would likely never appear again. Xiao Yan was helpless. Kai Lin seemed to have once again become that Queen Medusa of the past, who was difficult to tame, after exiting this retreat. She was cold and enchanting. Additionally, she also possessed an even greater confidence. "All right, stop messing around. What level is your strength now?" Xiao Yan bitterly laughed in his heart. He quickly became serious and asked after discovering that his spiritual perception was unable to detect Kai Lin's actual strength, not because she had surpassed him, Rather, it was due to Kai Lin's aura being overly mysterious. It was impossible for him to gauge it. It should be around that of a 4-star Dosheng. Kai Lin also smiled and replied honestly after seeing Xiaoyan become serious. Regardless of how powerful she was and how strong she acted in public, she still displayed a rare warmth and obedience in front of her man. That attack from earlier does not seem like something a 4-star Dosheng can use. Xiaoyan slightly lifted an eyebrow. That shrinking snake net Kai Lin had unleashed earlier caused even someone as powerful as Huang Tian to have no choice but to temporarily take shelter. A mere 4-star Dosheng was unable to do that. I borrowed an external strength. Kai Lin naturally did not hide anything from Xiaoyan. She took a step forward and became closer to Xiaoyan, after which she lifted her hand. Her sleeve fell and revealed her jade-like wrist. There were many 7-colored snake symbols extending from her wrist up her arm. Only some snake symbols were present outside. They contained an unusual charm that tempted one into trying to probe deeper. A strange expression flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes as he studied her arm. His large hand grabbed Kai Lin's seemingly boneless wrist in front of many envious and fiery hot eyes. His finger gently rubbed the many 7-colored snake symbols. A grave and shocked expression surged into his eyes a moment later because he discovered that these snake symbols actually possessed their own life force. In other words, these snake symbols were not energy bodies. They were genuine 7-colored heaven-swallowing pythons. The bottom of the 9 serene spring hides the lair of a tribe of 7-colored heaven-swallowing python. I have obtained the inheritance of their ancestors. There are some ancestors among them with part of their souls still present despite their damaged physical bodies. I have awakened them, and they have attached to my body. I was only able to fight Huang Tian by borrowing their strength. Otherwise, if I merely relied on myself, it is likely that I would not have been able to defeat Huang Tian.
Kai Lin xốp tì ét lại.
So this is the reason. Xiaoyan only came to a sudden understanding in his heart after hearing Kai Lin's brief explanation. Who would have imagined that the bottom of the 9 serene spring actually hide the remains of a lair belonging to the 7-colored heaven-swallowing python tribe? It was truly a lucky encounter for Kai Lin. This world was filled with all sorts of mysterious encounters. The reason he was able to obtain the purifying demonic lotus flame could be considered his own mysterious encounter. Will there be any problems? Xiaoyan's finger gently pressed down on a snake symbol on Kai Lin's arm as he inquired. Although these ancestors possess some soul fragments, they are not complete souls. From a certain point of view, they can all be controlled by me. Kai Lin's expression was a little dispirited as she replied. Xiaoyan relaxed only after hearing this. He comforted, "It's fine. If we have the opportunity in the future, we can try and see if we can repair their souls. However, the most important thing now is to resolve the trouble in front of us." Xiaoyan's eyes shifted to the mountain ruins as he spoke. A miserable figure had struggled into the air from that spot. That figure was Huang Tian, who had suffered a heavy blow from Kai Lin. Kai Lin by the side also slightly nodded. Her pretty eyes shifted to Huang Tian. The warm smile on her face had been wiped away. Her eyes had gained a cold glint as murderous intent surged within them.
Cough.
Huang Tian coughed intensely in front of the countless pairs of eyes. He wiped off the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes glanced at Xiaoyan and Kai Lin in the distance in a sinister manner. Panic flashed across his heart. He was still unafraid if Xiaoyan was alone, but another had appeared, who could seriously injure him. Even Huang Tian would feel a great pressure if these two cooperated. Had I known that Xiaoyan's woman was a 9-colored heaven-swallowing python, I would not have intervened, damn it. Huang Tian's eyes flickered. His heart felt regretful. Originally, he thought that this matter would not be troublesome. Who would have expected such an expected change to suddenly occur? The entire sky was quiet while Huang Tian was silent. Those experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe exchanged glances with each other. None of them dared to speak. Even the almighty Huang Tian in their eyes had been beaten into such a miserable state. Their pride from earlier had already been scattered by Xiao Yin and Kai Lin's ferociousness. Ha ha, Chief Huang Tian, are you planning to continue on trying to capture your target? Xiao Yin glanced at Huang Tian, who had become quiet. Finally, he opened his mouth and broke the silence. Huang Tian's face twitched upon hearing this question. His expression was volatile as it continued to rapidly change. Finally, he said in a hoarse voice, "Xiao Yin, this king has lost this time around." An uproar was immediately stirred after Huang Tian's words escaped his mouth. No one had expected the tribal chief of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, who was renowned within the Beast region, to actually admit defeat. You don't really think that this matter can be put to rest just by admitting defeat, do you? Xiao Yan's voice contained some ridicule. However, both of his eyes contained a chill. If he had come a little later today, something might have gone wrong with Kai Lin's training. How would he face Xiao Xiao if anything happened? Shall we kill him? Kai Lin by the side inquired in a faint voice. A murderous intent was revealed in her tone. Huang Tian's expression was a little ugly after seeing that Xiao Yin did not stop coming after him. He coldly said, "Saying that I admit defeat does not mean that I am afraid of you. If we were to really engage in an all-out fight, I would still be able to pull one of you into death's embrace even if I cannot win." Xiao Yin shifted his eyes. The chill in his eyes did not diminish while a nine-colored luster surged onto the surface of Kai Lin's body by the side. Yao Ming in the distance widened his mouth upon seeing them prepare. However, he eventually stopped himself from speaking. From his point of view, it would not be beneficial if Xiao Yin really killed Huang Tian. At that time, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe would definitely seek a crazy vengeance. Faced with one of the three great tribes, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, even the Sky Mansion Alliance would end up with a great headache. If the Hall of Souls were to quietly intervene, it might end up causing a great disaster for the Sky Mansion Alliance, which could destroy it for good. Huang Tian's expression was a little gloomy, but his heart felt bitter. Given his current condition, he would most likely end up dead if he were to deal with Xiao Yin and Kai Lin together. Xiao Yin, this king will inform you of some news. Perhaps you will no longer be interested in remaining here after hearing it. Huang Tian's eyes flashed. He violently clenched his teeth as he spoke in a deep voice. "Oh, why don't you tell me and we'll see?" Xiao Yin lifted his brows and replied with a calm expression. "Aren't you wondering why this king has chosen to launch a campaign and attract you over from the Central Plains now instead of earlier or later?" Xiao Yan's expression slightly sank. His eyes locked onto Huang Tian as he demanded, "Why?" Huang Tian smiled upon seeing Xiao Yan's reaction. He suddenly asked, "It seems that your relationship with the new Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe is quite good, right?" Xiao Yan's expression gradually became ugly. His heart began to feel an unease. His tone was dense as he said, "Do not try my limited patience." If I was you, I would immediately hurry to the empty realm now. Otherwise, I'm afraid that you will only be able to go and collect the corpse of the new Dragon Emperor. Huang Tian laughed. That young thing really doesn't know her limits. Does she really think that it is so easy to unite the ancient Void Dragon tribe? Xiao Yan's expression became completely gloomy. He suddenly lifted his palm. The dragon seal present on his palm had actually gradually dimmed at this moment. His limbs immediately became ice cold. "Let's go." Xiao Yan struck his palm forward without explaining anything. He tore through empty space. Without saying anything more, he moved his body and swiftly entered. Kai Lin behind him frowned slightly before she hurriedly followed. "Huang Tian, I will remember this matter today. If anything happens to Ziyin, I will get your entire Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe to repay with your lives. A cold smile had just appeared on Huang Tian's face as he watched Xiao Yin and Kai Lin hurriedly leaving when the dense voice that was emitted from the spatial crack froze his smile.